Well, good evening, good evening. Um, why I'm putting this video together is Bruce made a comment and asked me to show how I sharpen tools. Now, I'm a little bit okay, I will do, but I'm very conscious that most of you know more about this than I do. And some of you are going to say, oh dear, that's not the way to do it. Well, that's fine. If anyone's got some tips, please put them in the comments. Why do we sharpen tools? Well, some time ago I did sharpen this chisel and I've been using it. And what you find is as you use it, you get to a point where it just doesn't really sort of cut so nicely. And then you look at it and you run your thumb over it and you think, that wants a sharpen. And in fact I can see with my eye that edge is dull. It's not sharp. Now the bad news with this particular chisel, although it is a Stanley, this is very much a cut price chisel. Horror of horrors, it's made to be hit with a hammer. Now come on boys, who hits chisels with a hammer? You're supposed to have a wooden handle and use a mallet, but these chisels were cheap. They're quite good, they are quite good, but they are not the best. And again, this is something that a lot of you know more about than I do. Each different sort of tool is made of different qualities of steel or bronze or whatever, and different materials will sharpen in different ways and hold their edge better or less well. This does okay, but it's not the best. But the next thing for me to do is definitely to put a fresh edge on it that will actually cut something. Right, let's clear the deck. Now the stone I'm going to use is, it's a stone. It's a composite stone that came with the set of chisels, and it does the job. It's not of the finest quality. It came in the box. I'm just looking at that. It's got an interesting crack in it. The entire set of 4 chisels and a stone and a little bottle of oil was, I can't remember now, but it was less than £20, sort of, $25 or something like that. So we're not talking about expensive, really good craftsman grade tools. Now the first trick is just to drop a bit of this juice. I don't know what it is, lemon juice or something. Oh, no, it's an oil of some sort. It feels very much like baby oil. I hope I'm not going to have a baby. Now, oh dear, it was a bad joke, but I didn't need to cough. Now the metal removal is done on the forward stroke. Some people will use a honing guide for this, and they will take great care to get the right angle and all sorts of things. And somewhere I've got a book that says the optimum angle for a chisel, and of course it has 2 angles. It has the main angle and then it has a sharper cutting angle. Don't ask me what they are. If I ever knew, I've forgotten. And I don't use a honing guide. I work just by hand. And this is where it's going to get tricky, because I'm going to end up standing in the light, aren't I? But the metal removal is on the forward stroke. And you shouldn't really draw the blade back on the stone. The next stroke should be a forward stroke. And you do that trying to keep the same angle as you push the blade along the stone. And after a while you will see nice clean shiny metal come on the top edge of the blade. It doesn't matter if it's slightly curved. It should be beautifully flat, but if it's got a little bit of curve in it, well, you know, the important thing is that that bit is to end up very, very sharp. And if you create a burr on that side, you just remove it by a single stroke that way. Right, I'm going to get stuck in and actually wipe this thing up and down the stone. As I say, the pressure is put on in the forward stroke. It should be lifted off the stone, so on and so forth. Don't ask me how many strokes you take. You do it and then you look at it and then you get a bit of your old shirt and you clean it and you look at it again and then you look at it and then there'll be a burr on the back and you just take that burr off. I'm going to sharpen that and we'll see how we get on when I've done. Now of course if you're going to spend a bit of time sharpening one chisel and you put the stone where you can use it, you might as well do another one. This is from the same set, and actually I don't know if can we do this. Can you see? Yeah, I can see that in the screen. You can see that there's a bright line along the blade, and that's where it's just dull. It's blunt. At that angle you shouldn't be able to see that shiny light on it. So I'll duff this one over. The other thing about sharpening tools is after you've done it a few times, you'll find that unless you're incredibly good, that you start to lose the squareness of the angle of the blade. And that's the time that you go and talk to a mate who's got a workshop with a wet stone, a grinding stone, and you carefully on a flat wet stone grind it back to being square and then put an edge on it. I don't think this chisel has ever been ground. Not, you know, ground at the factory, but not ground since. So I'm just going to duff it over on the stone and make that a bit more usable. Right, I shouldn't really be using this bit because we're getting close to the finished cut. Right, well that's yeah, and this is the thing about doing it all by hand. You feel it. I'm not really that happy with that one. I'll give that another go when I've finished. Oh. That is better. It's not fan. Oh, that's yeah. No, that's better. Now, of course, the other thing with a job like this is knowing when to leave it alone. What I'm going to do is mark up the fourth one to cut the bevels on, because there's a lot of basic butchery of getting the corners off. You know, that's where we are, and yeah, there's a good bit of timber to knock off, but first of course we'll mark it with pencils and then cut it till you can't see the pencil line anymore, and then no more. The other thing with a job like this is, as you're setting it up, you should look at the grain in the timber, and you should cut so that the grain is at that angle to the cut, which is easy unless you've got a bit of interesting timber when the grain sort of goes like that. So you set the timber in your vise or on your work table, clamp it, and you need to be able to walk round it so that some cuts you're going that way and some cuts you're going that way and some you're going to go, so that you don't tear the wood, so that you slice it. You can cut the wrong way against the grain if you've got a very, very sharp tool. Yeah, you can, but it's much better to go with the grain with a very sharp tool. And this job is not going to get any sandpaper at all on it. It's going to be sharp corners and crisp, and yeah, well, hopefully it will be.